On a huge sprint Saturday at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix from the capital city to City Circuit. It's round 4 of the FIA Formula 2 trial at one moment, 3 wide overtaking at another, 6 kilometres, 3.7 combined into a layout that always surprises and always provides. A few moments later, after a DRS zone through, and to the thinnest part of the racetrack. At the thinnest part of the entire circuit. In the commentary,
engines, Victor Martins sitting on 3rd place in the grid, right behind off 2nd position. Right across from Richard Verschoor. That's what he can do today from a clearly favourable pole position. It's a one. Let's have a look at the rest of the grid.
So Richard Verschoor chasing to Martins, who goes from 3rd. Jack Crawford found a bit of form in Melbourne. He's looking for last year. He's next to Hauger, who's in 6th. He is in 9th place. He's next to Boschong. It was a penalty for him. He finds himself 14th in his camp. Juan Manuel Correa for both races. Isaac Hadjar is next to him, and then it's Clement Novalak next to Roy.
In qualifying, and took him out very early on in the session down at turn 1. Caught the slow burner to begin with, but a quite incredible lap at the on in the session, and just dealt with it to deliver around the world and set these cars up with lasers to get them out.
Set our grid for this one from that session, and you can see the top 3 in your pit.
Podium at the end of the race, but I don't want to put myself so much.
I think it's just the most important thing is to get a good start. We'll see what happens.
Richard Verschoor has been driving brilliantly so far this year. It's always been a bit of a...
it's a tricky start here, quite a short start, but that pole position sits speed into the first corner. After that, though, if he doesn't manage to do that, to get alongside, it's big problems for Verschoor, who's likely to be hustled out.
Championship standings on the left-hand side of your picture. Yumo Iwasa with Iwasa starting 17th in both races this weekend.
Yeah, it's one. Let's see what he can do in terms of gathering positions here. He will be desperate at the end of both races here because he's only a fine margin of 8 points ahead of Teo Pulchera.
All the way through, Brad Benavides is car 17, making his way. There it is. It's time to look to the lights. On the first row, but from P3, Victor Martins was there front wing, and going to the inside is Hauger, car number 1, close to making contact with Martin. Front wing damage at the front, he does now, because through goes Hauger to 2nd position. Boney, then you've got Hauger, then you've got Martins, and it's 4th place for Jack. And the race leader changes once again. Hauger finds it.
Martins at the start of the race or something a little later on. It looks like an absolute... So many drivers being caught out by the difficult conditions at the start of the race.
We have the front row expiring from contending at the... And it's only a short run down there, and yet all of that action.
Yeah, so much.
Back for Clement Novalak, who was taking a position at turn 16. Don't see many over. Has Hauger up to the lead at a venue where he's won before. Then it's Martins to Ruvel.
From the 3rd row of the grid, who leads the race, Jahan Darude struggled to build tyre temperature in those early laps, and that's what's caught them out. Looks to have done a good job to get it back, though.
Yeah, he will keep himself. He got stopped out on circuit. And Zane Maloney trundling back to the pit. Maloney.
You have to be joking.
Doesn't he? And lights the rear tyres up.
And then hitting Maloney. DRS is now the lead. He's not the only one looking for a way by. This is Vesti, late on the brakes, trying to find a way by in the battle for what is now 5th position. And Teo Port trying to get himself in the mix because he knows his championship rival. He's lost a play in the background. That looked like Ollie Behrman getting past Enzo Fittipaldi.
Incredible. The inside are giving him a bit of space. Here is the pit lane.
It's an issue for Boschong. Ralph Boschong's tumbling down. Contention, the white campos of Ralph Boschong is over at the side of the 102nd start.
Yeah, Boschong parked up on the side of the road. Incident involving Maloney and back on the rear of the pack with the super soft tyre in the pit lane. So Maloney thinking better of it, actually, in this instance. He's gone back out and realised he's got suspension damage.
Of magnitude, though, it was to try and get past one car. It's a car that he not having the fortune that he would have wanted, and we have 3.
Is he going to hit the wall? Oh, he's just hit the wall on the way in there. So Boschong using his experience there to keep the rest.
It's a wonderful part of the world, but he had no interest in seeing it down there. But to get back going, and real disappointment for Boschong as well as Maloney circuit used this weekend.
It's probably one of the only sections of racetrack in...
Heard from him earlier in the weekend. The Formula 3 champion of last year knows that Hauger last year, tale of two races, found the wall in before we started today, talking about what he does if the high likelihood of a...
Trying to think and obviously work with the team to for the safety car restarts. So obviously straight before T1, but it's always a bit of a commitment thing with the brake.
Remember the start of this race, how little grip there was. This medium compound tyre moving through the air, cooling at approaching 200 miles an hour. Brake car to perform at their maximum down towards turn one. It's
have been working on all the way through the weekend. We've had a 45-minute practice session. We've had around this 6-kilometre circuit, but the cars and the debris have been sometimes be a bit of a longer period under the safety car here. No service roads, 3 degrees out there. Hauger, though, facing a real Baku.
Never has the late restart been more tempting for Dennis to be expecting that from behind, because Hauger knows he will be a sitting...
Cars trying to generate all the temperature they know down there.
Victor Martins leaning, listen to him, leaning on the brake pedal.
Caught unawares, this is a chance for Taruvula, who's trying to fight up to second position. Porcher could not find the momentum. If anything, he's under pressure from 7th place.
Turn 2 and 3, nothing doing there.
And they are. Had a great one-lap pace yesterday, but finds himself down to 9th out of the...
Benavides could well be Benavides, who had an issue in qualifying.
Finds his way through. Hadjar, fantastic pace in practice, second fastest, one of them in the half-an-hour qualifying session. We're descending down now to turn 6, very wary of the problem that you were describing. Cold brakes, cold tyres.
You've really got a pip and chip. Frederick Vesti will be fancying a go down towards turn 1.
Zone that he will use next lap around, not available now. No need to take a late lunge to the inside.
Important moment in the race for Victor Martin, and this is a genuine fight for P2 as Daruvula continues to fight.
He was desperately trying for about 100 metres to bail out of the move. He wanted no part of it in the end. Balance for the final step on the podium, and Crawford has the early lap so far. That could, though, just be tyre warm-up. Ralph Boschong watching with the...
All out, cars go wide, cars have issues, and inevitably you sit there thinking, even if I fell out of 15th, you can get our timing screen away from Victor Martins behind. Expect Martins to get the DRS and
play to Oliver Behrman, who is to the inside and passed before the braking zone.
The star will have taken a lot of confidence away from his performance in qualifying yesterday. Oliver, 2 DRS zones that runs down towards turn 3. To the wall and then very, very close to his competitor as he came back on track.
Was so close to that Tech Pro there. Even when he missed it, I was still expecting. Started 20th on the grid. Terrific gain of places out there. Same applies.
Still sitting in 17th place, just appearing unable slightly from Victor Martins, but the DRS zone will sort that. Falling outside.
On board with Oliver Behrman, on board with the driver taking another position as Vesti, the next car up the road.
A little bit mirror signal manoeuvre with his hands there into...
And Frederick Vesti will know who is behind him, either side of the garage, mainly because there is no garage. They're in temporary. He will know that if he can make a move on Daruvula, it would be extremely advantageous.
I think Hauger's actually got a slightly faster car, and DRS is key over turn 20. That is in order to account for down that front straight towards turn 1, which is slightly is on Hauger out front.
He's staying there for the moment. Again for Oliver Behrman, the 3rd place finisher in Formula 3 from last year. He takes his place on the podium. Now, can the second Prema put the move on? He thinks...
Knew that Behrman, if he got shuffled out by Vesti, Behrman was in a watching brief. Yeah, DRS stuck open.
Yeah, looks like it. That's the Dams team that had a hits reminiscent of what we saw with maybe... It was an issue for Yuki Tsunoda last year in the Grand Prix. Martin's doing that, but within DRS. But they're all going to have to start worrying about this point. He's up to 4th position. This is turning into a charge. 9th on the grid.
In on the leading pair. So they're going to have a pair of Premas to think about.
Yeah, and they are trying to hunt down these two, who the MP Motorsport team will be aware of what happened in the sprint last year.
You need to keep some tyres in reserve, but if you do have that come through the second sector as Iwasa brings in the Dams with...